Hello, people of the internet. It's me, Ashley, with your probably favorite stream, I'm guessing, Archetype, sponsored by Lenovo. Yeah, we are into week 3. Is that correct? Hello, Twitch. Hello, YouTubes. Hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you all here. So, yeah, I believe we're into week 3, so let's get into it. Because the first week's always drawing, and then the second week we block this guy out, and we're just gonna keep on detailing and keep on doing stuff. And we are doing a mech, good old mechs. Thought it'd be fun to again switch it up. The last few characters were kind of fun, stylized animals, so you know, a mech's kind of a weird jumping point. So yeah, our Dervish character, which just basically means a really eccentric fighter with a really unique and interesting fighting style that kind of blends into who they are as a character, maybe culturally or in this case mechanically, I guess. So yeah, we're gonna just keep detailing this guy out and trying to find some fun shape language and whatnot, and possibly start, you know, figuring out some colors and things like that. So hello for everyone watching. I appreciate all the highs. It's nice to see everybody. So yeah, we're gonna start out with I like to start detailing the head usually first, just so that way you can find some sort of rhythm that you like with the head, and then you can kind of base everything else around that and off of that. So as you can see, it's a really high Dynamesh, but we don't have to say that high. In fact, I think it would probably be easier to go into a ZBrush thing. So we can do that. And you can see that it's kind of hard to see because it's so dense. But we can just turn off the line and then we can see what we're looking at. So I can make polygroups, and then what I can do is start slicing these shapes. Ooh, if it's going to take this long to slice, I'm going to lower the resolution. Because we do not need this much resolution for what we're doing. Yeah, that took way too long, so we'll lower this down. Oh, let's try that again. I'm gonna lower it even more. I think I upped this and I was like playing with some stuff before, but we don't need to play with that anymore. So I go around and cut this stuff off. Someone's asking, am I using the same PC to stream? Oh, it could explain why it's taking so long. Yeah, that could be part of it. I think the biggest thing is that I just had it was a really heavy resolution mesh, so I'm just gonna make sure that I chop it off at a lower resolution, and that should solve my problem. It seems to be fine now, so we should be okay. Yeah, I'm just slicing this dude up, and I'm just hiding parts so I don't, when I go into the slice curve, I don't pick anything that I don't need. And you can double tap to get a sharp point, and then you can tap to get nice curves if you want to. I'm gonna try to slice along this part. Got a little bit of the back, but that's okay. Also, slicing does not work in symmetry, so if you do something that's kind of like off-centered, you have to do a mirror and weld to make sure that you get that, and then you can just take that. I'll do an auto group. That's kind of, I mean, it's kind of a cool shape, but I'm just gonna take it and merge it down. And then I'll slice the back. So I'm just trying to cut it up into as many polygroups as possible. So that way ZRemesher has an easier time ZRemeshing it. The more information you can give ZRemesher, usually the better the ZRemesher will do for you. So again, I only do half, and then you can just mirror and weld it and you'll get the nice clean shapes on each side. So you can get something like that. Now we have something like that. Now we can go in and use the ZBrush, and you can just say keep groups. I don't have it in my UI, but there's a new thing that's also called edge detect as well, or detect edges. And that works pretty well as well. But I'll just say keep groups and do a ZBrush on this and see what we get. Ooh, you're gonna be mean. Why are you gonna do this? I'm just gonna go to the Z modeler and I'm just gonna stitch this point real quick because I feel like it's just gonna give me problems. It loves to give issues like that. We'll do it again. There we go. And then when you find like topology that seems to be working fairly well, I just always go into having it. And you can leave adaptive on for now, but at some point it won't let you. That's weird. You can turn off adaptive and do a ZBrush. Not sure why that polygroup is showing up. Might be a weird vert connection, but that's actually not too bad. Do it one more time and see what we get. Yeah, that's not bad. And smoothing it by default doesn't look great, but because we have polygroups, you can always go into your crease tab and you can crease it, and you can get those shapes a little better. And now we can go in and add more polygroups to this if we want to. So I can crease that, so I can get a harder edge for that as well. And start moving this stuff around. But I like keeping things super, super low res to begin with, because I can push and pull really easily. And there's actually a really cool tool as well with this called Smooth Polygroups. Ooh, I'm just gonna stitch these. Boop, stitch it, do the things. There we go. That's what I want. Increase that, and now I have that. Yeah, so I'm gonna go into a thing called Smooth Polygroups thing. It's a brush that you can grab in your smooth tools. Ash Blossom is asking, normally when I'm sculpting, do I only work with quads for the topology or with triangular shapes as well? Working with triangles and quads is fine. Anything more than a four-sided face is bad and considered an n-gon. But in ZBrush, I actually don't have to worry about it because it doesn't allow for n-gons. So it actually makes it pretty nice. I can just kind of work and I can be rest assured that it's not going to give me anything weird. So yeah, but a good rule of thumb is to there we go. So usually just work in quads and tries. Tries are totally fine. Just depends on, it's just more about where you put the tries more than anything else. If you're putting it in a place that's really hard to deform, then obviously that's going to give you a lot of errors and issues. But besides that, it's usually okay. And then obviously if you look at game res meshes, ultimately anything that goes into a game engine usually turns into all triangles anyway. So yeah, as long as you're just really thoughtful about where you're placing that stuff, you're usually fine. Cool, so now I have a little ZBrush thing and I can do a dynamic subdiv on it and preview it at smooth, and you can see that I can get really, really hard edges that way. And I can always smooth those out later. I can turn them into panels. But I'm gonna go ahead and I usually like to duplicate my model being very clean and just hide it, or I can save it out later just so I have something to fall back to if I don't know, end up messing up one of these things. I'm just going to go ahead and start subdividing it, and then I can kind of start detailing. Now, the smoothing that I have on is, again, in the brush, it's called Smooth Groups. And if you have smooth groups or not, it'll actually make sure that these creases stay really, really tight. So I can do something like, you know, start detailing something, you can see it smooths normally here, but if I go over my edges, it actually won't smooth them because smooth groups is on. So it's a way that you can either protect your edges or you can kind of create new ones. If I go down to my lowest subdivision here, and let's say I pick this thing, and for, I don't know, just for sake of argument here, I can grab maybe this area, and I can polygroup that, and I can bring it back up. And then when I move this out, for example, if I start to smooth this, you'll see the edges start creasing. So it's a really fast way to actually create some new crease topology for yourself. This is a really quick example, but you can see that what it's doing to the geometry. It will mess and deform your geometry. So this isn't something you should do on animated good topology. This is something that you do for concept and like ideation, or for what I'm doing right now, where this is more of like a, this is more of like a maquette or just a high-res sculpt. But you can switch back and forth between those things and kind of start getting some interesting stuff. But I'm going to use normal smooth just to kind of smooth out. I don't want these edges to be that sharp. I want them to kind of, be a little softer than that. So I can just go around and start smoothing this stuff a little bit. But yeah, you can just start polishing. And then you can use thick skin. I like using thick skin a lot. Thick skin is really cool. So thick skin, if you haven't used it, basically it's kind of like storing a morph target, but at a certain thickness. So all the 0 means 0 thickness, and then if I turn this up, you'll see it'll inflate my model. But depending on where I put it, so right now I'll put it at like 20, and if I let go, you see it snaps back, and now the thickness is set at 24, and it doesn't look any different. But if I go use the standard brush and I start to go on top of this, you'll see that at a certain point, I can't raise the height anymore. It'll stay at that same height. So this is a really cool technique to use when hard surfacing, because it works additive and subtractive, so you can start getting some like pretty cool shapes. And then if you want to refine this more, you can go back down to 0, and basically you can kind of like almost morph target it away if you wanted to. But you need nice, like really high-res topology for it. So yeah, that's just a cool technique. Happy Tuesday, Synth. Hello, it's my biggest fan. At least I think he's my biggest fan. But it's nice to see you guys here. Yeah, so you can start easily putting in and punching holes. So I'm going to start figuring out maybe where I want his eyes and stuff to be. Or just start detailing some stuff that I think could be fun or interesting. And then this will stay as long, the moment you turn, it's good to note that the moment you turn off thick skin, it'll basically store this. But until then, if I go back to 0, I can just get rid of anything that I make. So it's a really kind of editable way to work, which is kind of nice. So it's a really easy way to block in something like panels or something like that. But yeah, if there's stuff that you want to keep that you're like, ooh, I like this thing, or I like X, Y, and Z, then you know, you have to turn off thick skin and turn it back on, or else it'll get rid of it. And also remembering maybe the thickness level that you sculpted some things at is kind of handy. And some brushes are better at creating sharp lines than others. It just kind of depends. You can easily do like a straight line and kind of clean that up. So yeah, you can just constantly go back and forth and adjust the thickness of things. If I have a, you know, a poly group already, that makes it really easy. I can just take that and even masked, raise the thickness even more. And I can just raise that whole piece up really easily. Maybe smooth out a section that I think is going to be, you know, kind of the merging point on things like that. Yeah, we're going to get into sculpting some next stuff. But yeah, you can see you can easily start carving in shapes and doing stuff like that. Makes it pretty fun. It's a very, I don't want to say it's not slow. I think it's just more to be very decision based of what you want to do and like what you're looking to do. I think more than anything else. And to repeat a step, I'm just hitting 1. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking and dragging with shift, and I'm letting go of shift, and then I'm just hitting 1 a bunch of times to repeat that stroke so I can get that thing repeated a bunch of times. And I kind of like the eyes, how we did something like that. So I think what I want to do is try to consistently copy that feeling. Uh-oh. ZBrush, don't crash on me. No crashing. It might crash on me. We'll see what happens. ZBrush is usually pretty good at saving, but I don't know. It might die on me. We'll see what happens. If I crash, I didn't get that far, so I guess it's not the end of the world. It's a little annoying, though. Just making sure that there's nothing. Okay, yeah. Nope, still. Oh no. Should I wait? I will wait for a little bit, and then if not, I'll just kill it. But yeah, the thick skin feature is really cool. You just have to have a lot of topology for it. That's the part that I think is the hardest. We're doing something, you know, like using Booleans doesn't require as much geometry because it doesn't matter what the geo is. It's a preview first before it actually generates stuff. So I think that's usually the biggest thing about thick skin to keep in mind, is that usually to create really high res stuff, you need to have a pretty high res geometry. You know, this thing was only at, it wasn't even over 1 million polygons. So probably always want to crank it up to over 1 million before you start working on something like this. And then you can, you know, kind of detail and go to town. But it's really helpful if, you know, if you're not creating something, if you're just going to bake it down into a texture mesh or something like that. I just have to kill you. I'm sorry. Goodbye, ZBrush. It's not going to save, I think, this time. Bring it back up. RIP ZBrush. But yeah, usually, you know, it kind of depends on what kind of workflow you want for this. I think it just, if you're trying to look and find, just trying to find something or find something interesting, then that's where, oh, maybe it did save. Did it save? Oh my goodness. It might have saved. It did. Wow. Look at that. Way to go, ZBrush. ZBrush is such a homie. Yeah, so it's one of those things where, you know, if you're just kind of trying to experiment and stuff, it's a lot easier to play that way with it. So that's my suggestion. You know, because booleans they take a while to, you know, generate and create and things like that. So I don't like this shape. I'm gonna try to make something else here. But yeah, so all just a matter of personal preference, though, as to what you want to use. Again, I kind of want to follow the motif of the eyes, so I think like lines into, you know, like these circular patterns could be kind of cool. Just to keep the motif going, and maybe they get smaller as they get back. Oops. These types of lines, this is where you can kind of up your lazy radius, and you can drag this out and be a little cleaner. I have a very shaky hand most of the time, so this stuff is always really difficult for me to do, actually. Which is why I usually prefer to just, you know, do a mesh, like a nice actual clean mesh, instead of sculpting, because I get really picky about my lines, and I always have really shaky hands, so I have to like crank the radius up by a lot in order for me to get really clean lines. But you know, I can do it. Try to find the kind of next thickness that I want. Later you could put, you know, little screws or something in there and whatnot, just to add even more detail. Or if you wanted to, if I, you know, raised it, then it kind of looks like some other type of detail, right? So it's all personal preference as to how you want to, you know, utilize this stuff. But oops, I accidentally clicked my mesh, so it didn't let me repeat. Here we go. Synth is asking if I use thick skin a lot in my own workflow, or do I do it just as a demo? I'll use it every now and then, but usually I end up, it's really more for like a concepting phase, because it's so easy to iterate from it, and not have it be super destructive, which is what I like. You can also get really cool shapes that would take forever to model, normally really quickly. So I think for that, it's also kind of a speed and efficiency thing more than anything else. So yeah, there's also, you know, that to keep in mind. A lot of it is more of, if I was going to, you know, do like a game res mesh and I had a low res already done, maybe I could crease it and use the high res as my low res, or the low res as my high res, I mean. And then you can easily, oops, I meant to subtract that. You know, and then you could add these details in and then just go straight to your baking, which would be pretty cool, right? So, you know, it just kind of depends. Most of the time, I will use booleans and not this method, just because it usually will turn out cleaner, but this method is faster. So I'm really using this method because it's just faster for the sake of demoing and concepting detail, this is just a way faster method. So that's why I'm using it for this. But you can see you can just get shapes really quickly from it, and I think that's what I like the most about it. Is it's just a really quick way to get details fast. And then of course I can always like add and do kit bash stuff on top of this later. But yeah, and I can do things where I can. Oh, even you can see that even if I use the move tool, it'll stick to that thickness. So if you're happy with your choices that you've made so far with this, then you just have to make sure you turn off thick skin, and now it's basically like baked into your mesh. So yeah. Someone says it's just me, yours look like a super high-tech turtle head. Oh my gosh, it is a turtle. We could put turtle motifs on this. I think I mentioned that last time, that maybe it could be like look like a shell. There's nothing wrong with throwing animal motifs in there. I'm all for it. But yeah, we could, you know, do stuff like this. Try to pull some stuff out. And again, this isn't like what I would call like proper, you know, topology or anything like that, because you can see that I'm just stretching one really crazily. But for the sake of demoing and stuff, it works just fine. And if I alt tap on a surface, I can, you know, I can bring that in. Just to start adding some feeling of like overlap. It's kind of nice. And then I can also, you know, later we can kit bash on top of this. So I was thinking here I'll probably put in some like vents or something like that later. But yeah, and then you know, to add to this too, like if we wanted to create some more paneling, we can duplicate this. I can go down, you know, a subdivision level or so and try to maybe find some shapes that I like, or, you know, if I want to, I do want to create some sort of front plate. So if I do that, I can go to my highest, I can delete lower. I can just have this, and I can actually just delete hidden on this. And I can use my slice curve tool to, you know, create basically like some sort of shape. And then do a mirror and weld, right? And create something like that. And I can mask that if I want to now, and I could just extract it, which will give it automatic thickness. Oops. Gotta invert it though. And that extract is really heavy. And it'll always give you a preview, so it's that little part needs to go away. There we go. So you gotta be really picky about the extract, but you can say accept, and now you have like this nice little piece of geo that you could, if you needed to, you could Z-remesh it, but for now, like, I don't really think I have to. But yeah, you can easily create a little piece like that, and then I could either boolean this later, or I can just use the move tool with the focal shift really high up and just like push that in to create, you know, extra weird detail. A lot of this stuff is more of just, I guess what you would call concepting techniques for hard surface, and not so much about, you know, doing like proper topology and things like that, because that always is going to take you a really long time. Now I can just delete this. And I can go back to this one and turn on my thick skin again, and then I could maybe make a shape right here. So before I do that, I'm gonna subdivide because I want more sharpness. And then turn on thick skin again and see if I can get something cleaner. You can always fix anything that maybe seems a little odd or that almost gave it like a cool little bevel. Kind of like the idea of trying to connect all these, maybe. I would have to find the proper height for this to blend this in. But I could also go back down to 0 since it was baked, and I could pull that back to where it was and just smooth it out if I wanted to, make something like that. So it's really easy to just go back and forth and like make interesting shapes really quickly and just iterate. Again, it's just all about like the iterative process. But you can see that if I have a section line somewhere, that section line's gonna, you know, stay if I baked it in. So just be aware, you know, which is fine. If I do something like that, then it's gonna add even more complexity around that thing. So if I wanted to add another, you know, I don't know, weird dot or something, then I could easily go over that. You know, you could add like a weird shape on top of a lot of different things. So you can get really, really complex shapes with it. And you could put it in tandem with using like a morph target and bringing back and, you know, different aspects of your sculpt or things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful tool. But I can polish this off. And then, you know, I can add something to it. Oh, it's super, super deep. Yeah, it's one of those things that you want to think about your sculpt in layers. You know, what is it that you want to do first and then second, and then, you know, because, you know, section lines technically come probably at the very, very end. Because they're easier to, you know, because you can't draw on top of them once they're there. That's a little more annoying. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. I don't know. Someone said turtle, but I'm also trying to think of what colors he could possibly be. Maybe he could be some sort of green, some sort of like weird green with maybe some oranges or something. That could be kind of fun. Let me grab this piece. Bless me. Had to sneeze. Maybe I can find the opposite spectrum and make a brighter color. All that. Yeah, blue, white, and orange could be a really cool combination. Yeah, we'll play with it. For now, I'll see how I like the green, white, and orange. We could also reference some interesting stuff later for things like that. And we can mask by cavity, and we can add some like grunge and make him feel a little more worn than he currently does. Right now, we're kind of doing a very clean version. But we can get into that later. Those are kind of fun. Those are kind of fun colors. So we'll keep playing with that. So now that we have something, you know, something somewhat solidified. And again, I think a lot of this too is I'll be kit bashing some pieces on top to make him feel he's got, you know, all those cool extra little bits. And again, I can always change this or go back if I find another language that I'm enjoying more or anything like that. But yeah, once we grunge him up and stuff, maybe he'll feel slightly more, you know, dirtified and all those things. But yeah, let's now go ahead and solo this dude and start cutting this guy up. I'm thinking a lot of stuff too, like I want to do some paneling back here, which I'm not going to worry about, you know, here. I just want to get the basic shapes in and stuff, and then I can just add and iterate on top of that. And this is more of like sculpting a mech than it is modeling a mech. Just because hard surface modeling something really properly is always going to take more time, and it's more time than I usually have on a stream. So that's partially why we're doing stuff this way. But yeah, I'm just going to start cutting some stuff up. I always go still with the flow of what I kind of had as a base. You know, just make sure that the parts that I need to be separate parts are there. Whoops. I accidentally mirrored and welded it while having stuff hidden. It's gonna do some funky things. And yeah, I'll just constantly do, you know, make a move, mirror and weld so I can make sure I'm seeing the shape properly. Seeing one half of it and then do a mirror and weld. I always end up doing it on the wrong side. That's always a thing with me. I'm still doing it on the wrong side, but I'm like, mirror weld, cool. I don't know what it is with me wanting, I always do want to, you know, sculpt stuff on the right side. Just fall into different habits. It's getting kind of turtle shelly as well, which is kind of fun. So if we stick with our turtle-ish theme, that could be cool. I don't like that. See, this is something you kind of want to avoid. That's like dangerously close. I'll make sure that I bring that in a bit more. Oh, yeah, I want something more like that. Just more helpful. Again, not the most probably exciting process. I don't know. Maybe. Could be fun to watch. I'm not really sure, but this is just part of sculpting mechs. It gives you also a pretty nice, you know, retop to go off of as well if you're going to retop stuff. Because retopping or creating mesh from a lot of different things can be a huge pain if you don't know the direction that you're going. So I feel like doing this type of stuff and solidifying your design kind of in like the quickest way possible first is always really nice. And just really helpful, ultimately. But you can see how much I'll split up groups and things. And technically, even with these wings, I'll make sure that there's like a center line. So I get like a top and a bottom is also really good. I'm just gonna try to work on the left side so I don't have to do mirror. I mean, it's one extra button. It's really not the end of the world, but I will try to work on the left side, but I do like working on the right. Again, just the more guidance that you can give ZRemesher, the more helpful it'll usually be. So that's kind of why I take my time to do this stuff. And if I go back to my smoothing, if I go to my brush, and I go to the smooth. So I'll just show you as an example, like what you can do is, you know, if you're not going to Z-remesh this, for example, this is Dynamesh, but if I go and have smooth groups on, and I go ahead and start smoothing this, you can see it'll start to crease in those areas. If I move this around a little bit, oh, let me turn my focal shift down. If I move this around a little bit and then I go to smooth this, you can see that it'll start to crease all these things. It'll crease wherever there's a polygroup, which is actually a pretty decent preview. So, you know, for example, if I want to keep like a shape down the middle, then maybe I want to cut this in half like that. You know, and now if I mask that and I, you know, soften the mask and I bring it up a little bit, now when I smooth it out, you can see you can get a shape that kind of looks like that, which is pretty cool. It's a really easy way to kind of like iterative design and just kind of keep building on what you already have. For example, this, I had a shape in here as well that I can, oops, you know, do something like that with, and then do a mirror and weld. And I can, you know, grab that, I can soften it or not, and I can just move one section of this down to create like that vent opening. And if I smooth it, you know, and now I can even grab, if I'm really careful about how I slice curve this, do something like that, do a mirror and weld, and then I can just do an auto group, because it'll always, your slice curve will always kind of change the polygroup, but it didn't cut this, it just puts it into the same group, so I can always grab that and make that the same group and do another mirror and weld. And now if I smooth this, I'll get a sharp edge along that. Look at that, it's pretty cool. And this is Dynameshed, you know, so you can get pretty sharp, clean stuff, even just in a Dynamesh. And then on top of that, you can also use thick skin on your Dynamesh as well. You know, so if you don't want to commit to anything yet, and just make sure you have groups turned off when this happens, because otherwise it'll split them all. But you can still Dynamesh this, you know, to a higher resolution, and it'll keep all of that info. You can see it'll smooth out, but the moment I go over and smooth over it, it basically puts like a crease on everything. So you can still bring all that stuff back really, really quickly. I kind of like this shape, but I'm wondering, kind of fun. Like, I like how bubbly it got. The secret to being able to see your creases is you need like a cool, you know, plane change there. Otherwise, it's not really going to show up. So that's where, at least for me, what's the most handy most of the time is masking a section. And then just, you know, you can either do a soft select and then move it down. And then when you unhide it and you bring it back, now you can get like a cool crease. If the plane changes the same or like a really smooth fall off, then, you know, you're not going to really see anything. Yeah, we're going to try to follow the same ideas here. So there's a lot of, you know, like these shapes that are, let's say, hard edged with these like 3 edges and then like a round. You know, these are edges with, you know, a round. So we can try to play with that same shape language here. Because all of his little fin protectors, for example, could be round, but then maybe these are going to be more hard-edged. Or something like that, which we could kind of pinch into shape if we wanted to. And then run the smooth. But for now, I think I have the shapes that I want, so I can run just a ZBrusher on this. But you could keep it in Dynamesh for as long as you wanted, for eternity if you wanted to. You just gotta keep upping the resolution. I just find having subdivision levels easier. Cool. I actually don't hate how it's actually pretty good. I don't know why it does this. Or this is kind of a hot mess, you know? It does some weird things. Not always the happiest with it. But I still have smooth groups on, so you can sharpen up all this stuff really quickly. It doesn't really matter, I guess, but... I'm gonna try to have it just once. I think that's okay. Well, now I can kind of adjust and fix where this stuff is. Smooth that out a little bit. Could be like a turtle shell, right? Where it's its head poking out of it. In reality, we could also get rid of this piece technically, you know, because it's gonna go through to other stuff, but you can't really tell. So we'll put a bunch of greeble and stuff in there later where you can't really tell that it's doing those things. What is that? Yaha. That is the issue with smooth groups. Why do you do this to me? Sometimes ZBrush and its choices I don't understand. Or there's some stuff I just secretly don't know about ZBrush yet. Who knows? Yeah, so maybe all these panels are kind of bubbly or something. Or, you know, that's actually not bad either, is having stuff that's raised and then having stuff next to it that's lowered and then raised again. And then this would be raised. Hey, look, it's the same shape on his head. Cool. Like I planned it or something. Yeah, so there we go. And I'll make it this, I'll make it this same color green for now. It's green little turtle shell. Cool. And now we can start subdividing and just kind of sketching out some stuff. Because that's probably as far as I'll get this character, just because, again, hard surfacing can be a lot. And we also still have some cloth and stuff that we'll put on this dude. So, yeah. Should be fun. And I made a group accidentally instead of just subdividing. Let's just subdivide. There we go. And, yeah, you always have to do smooth groups. Or you can do creasing, but just go back to your normal, like, smooth, stronger. If you want to smooth out, you know, these creasing. You can always re-crease it or bring it back by, you know, turning back on the smooth groups if you wanted to. Let's make these shapes a little more, choiceful, I guess is maybe the word that I can use. I can still push and pull around a lot of stuff. And if, you know, I push a shape around a little too far, I can always kind of run a Z remesh on it again to get something back that I had before if I want to. Would he be able to go underwater? Someone's asking. Synth, I'm not sure. I don't think so. He lives in the desert. I feel like water would probably not be his friend. He's also a robot, so he doesn't really need water. He's a desert tortoise. We'll go with that. Just seeing what happens when I push and pull some of these panels. That's true, water is just a mirage. So he'd be afraid of mirages. That would be interesting. That's actually his weakness, or mirages in the desert. I'm kind of okay with just the way that looks, actually. I think it's fine. Kind of a really easy way to just add beveling. You can see that kind of just add the bevel pretty smooth one, but you could easily also, maybe, we can try it, is what I was thinking is you could grab this. So I'm gonna grab this guy. I'm gonna shrink it. So I'll start maybe here. I'll do a Control Shift X to, whoops, Control Shift S to shrink it. I could shrink it twice, and then I could up-res it, polygroup it, mask it, invert it, and then I could do like a soft select and maybe raise it just a little bit. And you can get a bevel, but then as long as you have your, again, smooth groups on, when you smooth this, you'll get like you'll get a bevel there. It's interesting that it's smoothing out that, but it's not. Why? That's weird. But yeah, you could, you know, create bevels that way. So now it looks more turtle shelly, right? Not a bad technique. Just tried it just now, and it seemed to work. So totally fine. Oh, it's just trying to smooth out the shapes, I guess. I just need to make this a bigger transition. Yeah, that's why it's doing that. Let's try it again on this piece. That was kind of interesting, right? So I'm gonna subdivide down, shrink it, shrink it. Might be getting some weirdness here, but it will. It will smooth out once we polygroup it. That's kind of the nice part. We can then grab it, raise it up. And then if we go in and do the smoothing, you can see it'll smooth out pretty well, actually. So now we're basically creating like little turtle shell paneling fairly quickly. I can do it to this piece. I'm trying to soften it. There we go. Oops, so I didn't have symmetry on. Oops. Maybe we can start colorizing this stuff to see. Would be cool. I definitely picture these dudes being orange. Maybe this back here is also orange. Oh, the moment you go down to polygroups, by the way, those or down subdivisions, those polygroups disappear and they get really ugly because they were created by a higher res geo. So yeah, not fun. So if you want to avoid that, then you gotta be careful. But it's also really easy to fix later. It's not really a big deal. What I actually would prefer to do, go back and scrub the color back, and then what you can do is just pick both of these and make them the same color. We also already have our creasing anyway, so it's not really the end of the world. But I want to take this and see if I could turn maybe that part white. Yeah, I don't know. We'll play with it. I can start sculpting in some detail using a thick skin and just try to copy what I did here with some of these shapes. So I don't know what I'm gonna, oh wait, I haven't added, oh no, I've added subdivisions. I'm silly. Go to my highest subdivision. Smooth out some of this stuff that got a little wonky. Is there like a blue in there? That's interesting. Look at that. A little blue in there. I was throwing my eyeballs off. Weird. Cool. Also, if you don't want, if you're smoothing, you can see that the poly paint smooths. If you don't want the poly paint to smooth while you're, smoothing out your model, if this is already a really hard edge, for example, I fill that and then I, take this and you can see that it's got a little bit of smoothing accidentally. And then I fill that. And now I have this really nice creased hard paint line. Well, if I don't want that to move, when I hit hold shift to go into my smoothing, just make sure that RGB is turned off. And then you can smooth all you want. And I'm smoothing right now and you can see that my poly paint doesn't move. So that's helpful if you don't know about it. I'm gonna test real quick to see how high res that is. That's not bad. I mean, from this distance, that's pretty good, right? I need to stop going like, is this good resolution? From far away, you're like, yeah, is that good resolution? Yeah, like that's fine. Because we're probably gonna render him, even a full body or at most maybe this close, right? So don't go above any more polygons than you need. Like I said, I think as long as you're above 1 million on this, it should be just fine. So we're gonna turn on thick skin now. And I can start adding some lines. Ooh, I'm using some color going on there. I don't want that. Just make sure you turn off any color information. And I really am looking at that being like, oh, do I want one more resolution? I think I do. I'm being so picky, but I think I want just one more. Just one more little resolution. So I want to smooth out this edge a little bit. It's a pretty pretty organic robot, so I'm not super worried about the edges being super creased. It's just a really nice starting point. Okay. Okay, I have a little higher resolution. Hopefully this doesn't break on me. I'm going to save this while I'm at it. Just in case. Never hurts. All right. I think a good probably rule of thumb too is when you're designing like you know, how you're going to be designing your mech or what details you're putting on your mech, I think it's important to stick to, you know, only a few rules. You know, you're going to do straight edges with, I like the idea of these, you know, these lines kind of going into these circles. I think is kind of fun. But if that's your motif, I wouldn't say do a whole lot more than that. Like try to keep it, you know, keep it simple in the sense that the rules that you're sticking to are very coherent, or at least you know, simple and easy to follow as far as the shape language goes. Because if you start putting in and incorporating too many you know, design languages, then it just gets really busy and messy, and then becomes kind of hard to read. So I'm gonna group these together again because I want to you can create semicircles. Again, utilize everything that you can when it comes to, you know, masking and generating different types of lines and stuff, and where you want those lines to be. I'm just tapping on shift. Oh, that's interesting. It's a weird thing there. You can see that it did that, but that's okay. If I remember that we're at 108.2, I can always go back down, or I can, you know, fix it later by going back down to the 0 thickness and kind of smoothing that out if I want to. Yeah, since as it becomes like a Michael Bay transformer, busy. That's very true. I think the biggest reason why that was happening was I was projecting kind of weird onto it. So I think what I'll do is I'll redraw that. Oh man. Rubbed away all my detail. Bring that back. Where are you? Come here. You gotta be very careful with your detail or with your history. Scrubbing when you lose it there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this again, but from the top, and I think that'll just make my life a lot easier. Oops. Yeah, I'm just hitting shift and letting go of shift. And then I'm going to hit 1 a bunch of times. Basically get that line. You know, I think I showed you guys before the way we could, you know, make section lines later. It was the same way on the chipmunk that we made seam lines. It's totally the same concept. I'm just going in with the gaming standard brush, but if you, with the level radius really high, or the lazy radius really high, but if you wanted to, you could do that same technique that we did last time with the chipmunk. Someone on Twitch is asking if so hitting 1 repeats the last stroke. Yes. It's really important to note that it's just the last anything. So if I move my camera and I hit 1, it will also like repeat the camera stroke. So it's really important that when you are using that technique is to, you know, if I'm going to make a detail here, for example, so I'm holding shift to drag a straight line. There it is. I can't move my camera, but then I can just hit 1 and repeat a bunch of times. And there you go. Now I have that dug in. And the reason why I'm doing that is because you can get to that depth by just going like this. I'm just, you know, pushing. But obviously one's a lot cleaner than the other. So for me, it's just a lot easier to hold shift once and then click it down. It barely made a mark, and then I can hit 1 a bunch of times. Yeah, the control of it's really, really nice. And then this is something that Michael Popovich also showed that I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea too, is if you're really careful enough, you can scrub through your history and you can like pick kind of basically the beveling. Unfortunately, I have too much of a history where that's kind of annoying, but you could basically do that too, where you can kind of control and really refine, you know, the moves that you're making. The move size is very tricky. But yeah, it's just making sure it's all about don't move your camera and then hitting repeat. I'm just hitting 1 a bunch of times for that. It's a very cool trick. Which is why hopefully I thought it was fun to pick a mech, because I could kind of show just some fun ways to have add details and stuff with mech, with like mech sculpting. And again, I'm not really a mech person, so this is honestly kind of stepping out of my comfort zone for me with what I usually like to do and create. But you know, we sculpted some stylistic stuff before, so I thought it would be fun to go in and, you know, try to show you how I'd sculpt maybe something like a mech that's kind of, he's getting very bubbly and like fun and stylized, which is again always just kind of thoroughly surprised with where we go on this stream most of the time. And right now I'm thinking about what, you know, what details do I want at this particular thickness, right? But I can go over it later, right, with other thicknesses and add stuff on top or stuff, you know, even deeper or whatever it is after the fact. So right now I'm just kind of laying in some stuff, and if I decide that anything, you know, I can pick later, go, oh, maybe the sections between this and this should be just thicker, then I could just draw over it and redo it again, because it's just, it's so easy to play around with this stuff that it's, I'm not really married to anything. So yeah, it's very fun just to go in and try to figure out what details. And then again, on top of this, I'll probably put, you know, some fun kit bashy parts and stuff. Rashawn from YouTube says hello. Hello. Welcome to DOS streaming. Yeah, so Cyntha's asking for more detail about the thick skin thing. So basically the thickness is you can think of it as almost like a morph target, that it inflates it to a certain thickness or to a certain point, and you can't go beyond that. So no matter, you know, how much like if I use clay buildup, for example, no matter how much I sculpt, you can see that I'm just hitting that thickness level that I have the setting to. And if I want to get rid of that, I just have to make sure that I turn off the thickness. But if I want to go back to what my original sculpt was, I can also put this thing, if I remember it's at 108.2, I can go back down to 0. And now if I use the clay buildup, you can see I can go back to what my original sculpt was. So yeah, it's a really handy tool to like be able to go back and forth and iterate. So if I wanted to adjust, you know, if I wanted to flatten this out, I was like, oh, I don't like this detail, which like, oh, maybe I don't. I can go back here and just kind of smooth this out and keep going, and there you go. Now it's gone, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But with stuff like that, you know, maybe if I don't remember where the thickness is, I'll make as many details as I can, and then be like, oh, okay, what do I want to keep? What do I not want to keep? You know, because in this method, it doesn't really hurt to go crazy from the beginning. So yeah, so for stuff like this, you can see I could get rid of that and smooth that out later, and just keep where I want it. So yeah, and it works. I'm using it as a way to scribe in, but it also works as a way to push out. So it's the same thickness, just the opposite. So if I use the move tool, for example, I can move this out, but it won't ever go above that thickness. It stays at that thickness. So it's a really easy way to plot out circles, and then I can make it smaller. I can dive it in, you know, and you can start plotting out stuff that way too. It's really, really fast and iterative. So if I want, you know, for example, some circles here. Cyntha's asking, is that something similar to the layer brush? Yes, but it has more control because you can go back and forth between the different thickness settings. In a layer brush, you always have to have it on record, and then you can't ever really be out of record once you set a thickness. And I guess in this sense, or once you set a layer, and this is kind of the same. Like once I turn off the thickness, there's no technically going back. But the biggest thing is, you know, with the layer brush, you still will never get like that set distance. So it's really cool to be able to go in here, you know, for example, and if I'm really careful with selecting, I don't know, this area as an example. You know, if I have this area and I grab it, I'm going to hide it, the mask, and I raise this, you can see that it raises to a certain point. So layer brush can't. Well, layer brush can do that, but if you do it again and again and again, it'll just keep layering. So you can get the same effect with the layer brush. But you have to store a morph target, so you can do it. But it also is only one thickness. Like you can't change the thickness of a layer brush except for the size intensity. So for those of you that don't know that the layer brush exists, if we go to, I think it's just under L. Yeah, this layer brush here. So if I do layer brush, I can draw out, depending on the thickness or depending on the intensity of my brush. If I up the intensity, it gets taller. And you can see that I can do that. But if I go over it again, oh, it'll stay the same. But is that because I have a morph target? Oh, that's because I have thick skin. I'm dumb. It's because I have thick skin on. So it's obviously hitting the thickness skin. So if I turn this off, so if I do layer, there's a layer brush. If I do it again, you see it will repeat, but it goes on top. of what it was before, unless you go to morph target, store morph target, and then you draw the layer brush, and then you go over it again. Then it will stay the same, but you still fall under the same thing as if you up the intensity. Now you can kind of go over it and overlay it. The issue though is there's no going backwards though, unless you just go, you know, and switch back to your morph target. And then you can raise it up. So there's just a little bit less controllability. I can lower the intensity, and you can see that it draws, but it will never flatten out. Whereas with the thick skin, it will. So, yeah, the layering gets more complicated. So if I turn on thick skin again, if I draw out that same thing, not using a layer brush, you know, this has become a tutorial with Ashley. So, you know, so I get this now, but if I want to change the depth or I want to go back to 0, I just have to make sure that I can go back to 0. And then now I can drag that out, or I can change it. I can go up the thickness scale, and that'll transfer all around. So yeah, that's kind of the difference between the two. I hope that helps. I'm also going to go back, because I lost my thickness. There we go. So yeah, I hope that helps. You are welcome. You can set little places for maybe where screws will eventually go. But that's something that you could also add later with a, you know, you could do that with an insert mesh if you wanted to, but, you know, we could add the little screw details on all the corners if we wanted to. I think I like the history is getting very long. That's okay. I'll keep building on this one. This is the kind of the shapes that we're going with, that these shapes are connected by this, and we can add something to it later. Yeah, Cynthia was mentioning that this is a good place to add basically landmarks of stuff and then add stuff on top of it later, and it's totally accurate. Or again, for something like this where we're going to be looking at this guy from maybe this far away, and I would say that those details are fine for what it is that we're, you know, creating. So yeah, it really just depends on what you're making and what you're trying to convey. For somebody who's also just concepting, you know, let's say if we're just concepting a mech in 3D, and then someone's going to bring it into Keyshot or Blender or something later, then yeah, this is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with the way we're doing things here. I think these are a little too big, so I'm gonna erase them away. And I'm gonna make them smaller. Oh god, we remember our number, right? 108.2. Sounds like a radio station. Yeah, to each their own. I think this is just one technique that I, wanted to explore this time around because it's just fun and different. But and basically for like free sculpting and not really worrying about topology and stuff, this is a nice method. Yeah, DJ Ashley. I don't know if any of you guys would like my music. I have weird music. I wouldn't say weird music. I just have random music. It's very random. Oops, I moved my camera. Don't do that. Kind of getting all those little nubbies in where I want them, and then I'm gonna go across my model with these little lines, and then I'll put in the dots and kind of staying consistent with what we did for the face. And then whenever it comes to detailing it more with like insert meshes and stuff like that, or like other paneling or things, it's good to stick with like a few insert meshes that we can like warp and change for later, and kind of keep all that stuff consistent. Again, not picking too many things that you're gonna sculpt with. Just picking a set few so that way you have a consistent language that's going on. A recent song that came out, Synth is asking what kind of music I like. I'm a really big fan of Dead, which is a band. It's called DEHD. I really like that as a band. They're super good. A new song from Flip Turn came out, and I like that song. It's called Sad Disco. Love Cake. Cake's a classic one, but I don't know just the one song, which everyone knows the Distance song, but I know all the songs. I love them. Oh, Ash Blossom saying you liked good to listen to while working in Substance Design. Which one? Which one's good to listen to? Yeah, post up your favorite artists if you guys have some. I always like trying to. It's hard to find good music now because Substance is not Substance. Spotify's algorithm's terrible. So if you guys have suggestions, I will gladly take them. It gets very thick so quickly. And make that smaller. Always. Okay, I'll check out Always. Oh, I like Parentheses too, if you guys like those guys. Those guys are good too. They have some fun songs. I do like the songs we listen to on here. They're pretty chill. It's like chill beats, chill vibes. Ooh, this is just ska genre song, very like jazz. It sounds familiar, but I can't think of anything that's ska-like at the moment, but I'll definitely give it a listen. Anything that's nice and chill and calm while being able to sculpt on stuff is always nice. Oh man, I'm gonna have to ask James to screenshot the chat so I can save all these. Or I could go back and look on it on YouTube and scrub to this time at 1:35. Go look at all the song suggestions that people give you. This is very chill. If you get into the zone of, you know, just sculpting some scribes on your mechs, it's a fun time. This is a way to sculpt mechs without having to worry about sculpting mechs, which is kind of nice. I'm not a mech designer, but having fun, so that's all that matters. I think our design is turning out very odd, but oh well. Odd is fun. Chill vibes, mech. We'll go with that. I think I'm accidentally hitting shift like twice or something and doing something funky. I just want to draw one line. Just give me one line. There we go. Yeah, once we add, because if we do some cool poly paint too, we can really accentuate like all the little greebles and stuff that we're putting on, because we can mask by the curves or mask by cavity, and we'll get some cool results, because obviously them all being passing through colors and stuff right now looks a little weird. So sometimes the color may help in this case, and sometimes it might not help you, just to see like how things are feeling, and making sure that the paneling is kind of all in the right spot. Always having my back saying thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I try to do March of Mechs, which is actually coming up. It's when you draw mechs for, you know, the month of March, which is really fun to do. This is also kind of a mech that I guess I don't know. I draw a lot of like Evangelion type mechs, which I guess this is getting it's getting to that level now, because that's like where my comfort zone is with drawing fun little mech characters and things. The more organic it is, obviously, I'm gonna I'm gonna like it more, so it's fun. Yeah, I don't want to go too crazy, but I think we're getting somewhere that's fun. I'm trying to vary up the size of the holes too, just for like big, medium, small shapes. That actually kind of looks nice too, is doing like half paneling, almost like screws. Makes it feel like there's a panel on a panel, which then again we can add little screws onto and stuff. Metal Gear Solid has some good ones. I do like Metal Gear Solid mech designs. Those are a lot of fun. Cool. So now we have something kind of going as far as shape language. I actually did want to come up with something for the arms, because I wanted to show, I don't know how often you guys have used like the curve tools and stuff in ZBrush, but you can do some really cool, fun, creative stuff with the curve tool. So I think for the last 15 minutes here, I'm gonna concept out, you know, what I want his arm to look like. And I wanted to use a curve brush method, one, because Obviously it's very tube-like, so it fits, but at the same time, because we'll be, posing him later, I can actually save that curve brush, and then I can just do really crazy poses with my mesh. So that's kind of my idea. So I will insert a cylinder and bring it down here. Bring this up. I basically want to create like a middle point and an end point and then a beginning point. So the easiest way for me to kind of keep track of that usually is I will I'll start with just a cylinder, and you want to make sure that whatever you make for this, the top and the bottom need to stay the same. You can do whatever you want kind of in the middle, but as long as the top and the bottom can connect, then good to go. Along with what I'll do is I'll bevel, and I'll bevel this guy. So now we have 3 sections basically. So we have an endpoint, a beginning, and a middle. So as long as this part here doesn't change and this part here doesn't change, it should connect all really nicely, and we can do whatever we want in the beginning and at the end. So I will show you what I mean. So for his hands, we had like these little blade ideas, which would be fun. So we can actually model that right now. So I can extrude the edge loop out, and I'm going to thin this out. And again, as long as you don't touch this middle area, it should be fine. I can warp this to be however I want it to be. And I can add parts to it too. I can do something like that and say okay. And this will just be a test to see where we get. And turn on double, and I'm gonna bridge the bottom of these. Right now they can be separate polygroups, but when you're done modeling it, they can only be 3 if you want tripart to work. So I'm gonna duplicate this now, and I'll select this pink part, delete hidden, and I'm gonna grab this right here. I'm a big fan of, I think I've told you guys this before, I'm a big fan of taking something that I've already made and basically reusing it all the time. So I basically want to turn this into his blade part. I don't know, maybe they're like really big blades. Could be kind of fun. One annoying thing about using the Z modeler with stuff is it always turns off your dynamic. So if your scale of your character is kind of weird, it's always gonna force you to go back into dynamic, which is annoying. Oops, I'm going to extrude all polygons. There we go. I'm going to insert a edge loop right here. And then what you can do is I can mask the top of this. And then you can go here and you can say scale, edge loop complete. And when you scale it, you can get like a really sharp edge really quickly. That's basically the goal. And then you can pinch that stuff, or you can pinch that to bring it into a really fine point. But then if you crease it, you get something kind of like that, and then we can crease it down the middle. And then crease the actual edge point. Now we're getting kind of like a sharp blade. And crease these little guys too. There we go. Nice and pointy. I'm just using creasing instead of polygroup because eventually our polygroups will go away anyway. For certain things, it's easier right now just to use the crease tool. I'm gonna make sure there's a few more subdivisions on this dude. Not subdivisions, but I guess subdivisions. I just want to make this a smoother transition because I think it'd be cool if his hand is kind of rounded. I'm gonna mask the area that I don't want to move. So it's basically like a little hand that holds his crazy little blades. And we can change the shape of these blades too if we wanted to. You know, we could go really crazy with it later. Or push them out a little bit more. Push this out more if we wanted to. Push this down more. See what we can come up with. Come up with like really weird, crazy shapes if we want to. Not really sure yet what kind of shapes we want. As you can see, at really low res stuff, we can create shapes really quickly, which is what I like. It's just quick iterations of things. Oh yeah, super pointy. That's fun. I think you haven't pushed it far enough. Just try pushing it a little farther, right? That's the goal. And then for the middle, I thought it would be fun to add some cool, I don't know, some sort of like kind of ribbing or something like that. So I'm actually going to open up, we'll see if there's something in the kit bash thing that I have real quick. Whoa, crazy kit bash pieces. I don't think there's anything in here that I might be able to use. Some of this we might use later, but let's see. These are all just joints and stuff, which I probably will use later to add like some extra greeble. I don't really see anything that I want to use. I was hoping to kind of find something that felt more just cylindrical, but that's okay. I have another back parts in my thing. Let's see if I can find something in here real quick. Gears and cramps and greeble. I can try this greeble. Let's see if we can find something. I don't want anything that's also too heavy. That's my biggest issue with some of this stuff, is it gets really, really heavy really quickly, depending on who modeled it. So I think that's always the part that's kind of hard. Someone on YouTube, Prashan, is asking on YouTube, as a character artist, are you usually working off of existing concepts, or do you design in 3D as well? Asking from a portfolio standpoint. I've done both, where it kind of depends. Like sometimes you'll get a concept that's just really sketchy, and then sometimes you'll get a concept that is super, super refined and fleshed out. So you know, it's usually up to the 3D artist to create cool interpretations of what's done in 2D, in 3D. Just because most of the time as well, 3D is just such a different medium than 2D. You can get away with certain things in 2D that you can't in 3D, and then vice versa. And so, yeah, you have to always keep that kind of stuff in mind. Basically, just want. I know what kind of shape I want, which is why I'm being dumb about it, because I really should just make it. But yeah, portfolio-wise, it doesn't matter. If you're a good 3D artist, people just want to see that you're good at 3D. It's not really whether or not you can. I think it's important to know how to interpret a design into 3D. But you know, you can go from super sketchy stuff or really polished and refined work, and that doesn't really make a huge difference. Why are you being weird? Oh, I masked it. That's why. I want to create like some bracketing basically. And then if I want to bevel this right now, this is also where later you'd probably want to detail this as much as possible before dragging it out into a curve, because you'll be, you know, repeating this detail a bunch of times. But we're getting close to time, so I just want to show you guys kind of this process. I'm going to keep this within the middle. You only need like a few. You don't need the whole, you don't need a lot. Now I have this, and then I think eventually what will be cool is I'll put underneath this, I'm picturing like some cool little like cloth and stuff. But basically, after creating something like this, I'm gonna merge. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna merge that down. Now we have that, and then I want to merge this guy down as well. So I'm gonna merge that down. Say okay. So now it's really important to make sure that the bottom is all one. This middle section's all one. And then the top is all one poly. So you have 3 different poly groups that are happening here. And now what I can do is say, create an insert mesh, and I'll create a new one. And then I can go to my stroke, and I can turn on curve mode. And then I'll go to brush, and I believe it's in modifiers. You turn on triparts, which is already on by default, and then I'll put on well points and stretch as well. So now what you'll get is, and this will obviously, this is why this is going to be cool for posing the character, is when I drag this out, turn on double, is you'll get bracketing all the way down his arm really quickly. So it's a way to get detail really fast. And you can see we have a beginning point, which we can detail more. You can see the end ends with his sharp little blades, and we can turn off dynamic and up the, whoops. Try to make it bigger. But yeah, now we can go back up into curves, and we can bend lock start and lock end. And then we can move these down if we wanted to. But you can see for later for posing, we can just basically drag this out and we can create really cool dynamic little weapons that he's got. It's kind of fun to keep him up like that. But yeah, he's got cool little like tails, basically now. So it's a really cool way to be able to be efficient with like making something that would technically be really repetitive. And we could add more detail onto this. You want to be careful not to add too much, because if you add too much detail, it does kind of struggle a bit because it is repeating it so much. But you can see we can move this up into wherever that would be. We'd also change the if we wanted to start bigger and then go smaller, we could do that too. In our curve modifiers, we could change the size and the fall off. You always want to flip it because it will do small to big, but you can do something like that. And then the weapon's still there, it's just really thin now, which is kind of funny, right? But it'll do like a big to small as well, which is kind of fun. And as long as you can readjust and retap it. And I think the reason why I can't make this any bigger, it has something to do with, I think the size in which you draw this insert mesh brush in, but I could be wrong. I'll have to do some research onto it. But yeah, you can see you can get some weird shapes if you do that. But you can just turn off size if you don't want that. Go back to normal. But yeah, this is a way we can pose his limbs like really, really quickly. And the curve brush is a lot of fun. There's tons of different things you can come up with to make something like that. And then when you're done, you can, this is attached to, you just have to draw it out on something that doesn't have subdivisions, which our top shell and head do have. So I just drew it out on the arm, but when you're done, you can just, I can select the arm and then just say split hidden. And now I have his arms living, in a different spot. I think I would want them to be bigger later on, but that's just as easy to select the bottom and I can make them bigger, or in the brush I'm able to make them bigger. It wouldn't go any bigger right now, but I'll have to figure out that stuff. But yeah, so there you go. There's some fun little cool tripart tip. If you guys didn't know, you guys can create some really fun stuff with the ZBrush curve brushes. So that's about time. So we're gonna go ahead and call it a day there. My goal for next week is to bring a lot of the other stuff kind of up to this speed. Maybe make the poly paint nice. And then we'll go over doing maybe some cloth simming and stuff next week. And just doing further detailing and some kit bashing. February is a short week, so I'm actually thinking maybe one more episode. Is that what it is? It's already week 3, so it's crazy, but possibly one more episode of, doing all that stuff and then posing him and whatnot for February, but we will see if we can get that done by next week. So, but anyway, thanks for tuning in. Join in next time. Appreciate you guys all watching. Goes by pretty quickly as usual. So yeah, I'm Ashley. This was Archetype, sponsored by Lenovo. Be back here next Tuesday as we keep doing this cool Mac Dervish character. We'll see where it ends up. Having a lot of fun with it so far. So yeah, catch you guys next time. Bye.